A good day to you, viewers at home, viewers around the world. Welcome to Africa News Flash. I'm your host, Benny Mokro, and welcome you to this first edition of the show, whereby we go inside of anything happening around the continent of Africa. Don't you be fooled by the name of the show, Africa News Flash. It's not a flash at all. In fact, we go inside to get to know the happenings, the ins and outs, what people are talking about, the trendy stuff affecting the community of Africa continent as a whole. Our first topic, we're going to talk about fracking. The Namibians are already talking about it. The media in Namibia has touched on about fracking. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, we're talking about a type of drilling on the earth core to get oil. And this time around, a Canadian company is exploring the northern east of Namibia, the Cambongo region, exploring for oil. And speculation are that the said company has already signed a contract with Botswana as well to go and, after finishing Namibia, to come and explore basically around the Zodilo area and next to the mighty Okavango Delta. Now, what's the problem with this, one may ask? A lot of people on social media are crying. Some are crying, while some are supporting the move. Financially, it's gonna change some things around the mining areas. For example, some people will be hired to go and work for the mining companies. Now, the problem where other people are complaining is what comes with underground mining or with mining oil next to the precious Okavango Delta and Zodilo Hills. More so that these two areas are UNESCO heritage sites. Before we dwell into fracking, let us watch a video clip and get to understand what is fracking. Let us get the bigger picture of what is fracking.
What is hydraulic fracturing or fracking? Since the Industrial Revolution, our energy consumption has risen unceasingly. The majority of this energy consumption is supplied by fossil fuels like coal or natural gas. Recently, there's been a lot of talk about a controversial method of extracting natural gas, hydraulic fracturing or fracking. Put simply, fracking describes the recovery of natural gas from deep layers inside the earth. In this method, porous rock is fractured by the use of water, sand and chemicals in order to release the enclosed natural gas. The technique of fracking has been known since the 1940s. Nonetheless, only in the last 10 years has there been quite a fracking boom, especially in the USA. This is because most conventional natural gas sources in America and on the European continent have been exhausted. Thus, prices for natural gas and other fuels are rising steadily. Significantly more complicated and expensive methods, like fracking, have now become attractive and profitable. In the meantime, fracking has already been used more than 1 million times in the USA alone. Over 60% of all new oil and gas wells are drilled by using fracking. Now, let's take a look at how fracking actually works. First, a shaft is drilled several hundred meters into the earth. From there, a horizontal hole is drilled into the gas-bearing layer of rock. Next, the fracking fluid is pumped into the ground using high-performance pumps. On average, the fluid consists of 8 million liters of water, which amounts to about the daily consumption of 65,000 people. plus several thousand tons of sand and about 200,000 litres of chemicals. The mixture penetrates into the rock layer and produces innumerable tiny cracks. The sand prevents the cracks from closing again. The chemicals perform various tasks. Among other things, they compress the water, kill off bacteria, or dissolve minerals. Next, the majority of the fracking fluid is pumped out again. And now the natural gas can be recovered. As soon as the gas source is exhausted, the drill hole is sealed. As a rule, the fracking fluid is pumped back into deep underground layers and sealed in there. However, fracking is also associated with several considerable risks. The primary risk consists in the contamination of drinking water sources. Fracking not only consumes large quantities of fresh water, but in addition the water is subsequently contaminated and is highly toxic. The contamination is so severe that the water cannot even be cleaned in a treatment plant. Even though the danger is known and theoretically could be managed, in the USA already sources have been contaminated due to negligence. No one yet knows how the enclosed water will behave in the future, since there have not yet been any long-term studies on the subject. The chemicals used in fracking vary from the hazardous to the extremely toxic and carcinogenic, such as benzol or formic acid. The companies using fracking say nothing about the precise composition of the chemical mixture. But it is known that there are about 700 different chemical agents which can be used in the process. Another risk is the release of greenhouse gases. The natural gas recovered by fracking consists largely of methane, a greenhouse gas which is 25 times more potent than carbon dioxide. Natural gas is less harmful than coal when burned, but nonetheless, the negative effects of fracking on the climate balance are overall greater. Firstly, the fracking process requires a very large consumption of energy. Secondly, the drill holes are quickly exhausted, and it's necessary to drill fracking holes much more frequently than for classical natural gas wells. In addition, about 3% of the recovered gas is lost in the extraction and escapes into the atmosphere. So how is fracking and its expected benefits to be assessed when the advantages are balanced against the disadvantages? When properly employed, this technique offers one way in the short to medium term to meet our demand for lower-cost energy. But the long-term consequences of fracking are unforeseeable, and the risk to our drinking water thus should not be underestimated.
I hope we are on the same boat about fracking right now or at this stage. Our journey doesn't end here, ladies and gentlemen.
For starters, Africa as a continent is very rich in oil and gas, with an estimated 487.7 trillion cubic feet and around 125 billion barrels of proven oil reserves. Clearly, a good incentive for foreign exploitation, as I'm sure you'll agree. Of the nations in Africa that have such resources, 5 countries dominate the upstream oil production, with Nigeria, Libya, Algeria, Egypt, and Angola enjoying 85% of Africa's total proven reserves. However, there's also the issue of untapped reserves, and it's hence why Western companies are becoming ever more active on the continent. One such example of this speculative exploration is situated between Namibia and Botswana, encompassing the so-called Cambongo Basin. Now, this area spans some 35,000 square kilometers and will see the operating company based out of Canada drill hundreds of UNESCO protected land, bringing with it some very serious consequences.
In this exclusive episode of Economic Divide, we were contacted by activists concerned about the ongoing project operated by Canadian company Recon Africa. Recon Africa described themselves as a junior oil and gas company engaged in the development and exploration of oil and gas in the northeast of Namibia and the northwest of Botswana, commonly known as the Cambongo Basin. The company has acquired a 90% stake in the exploration of petroleum in Namibia across an area of around 25,300 square kilometers, as well as obtaining a 100% stake in the petroleum license of Northwest Botswana, covering around 9,900 square kilometers of land. It's been estimated that a total of 120 billion barrels of oil lie underneath the coveted area, an estimate delivered by the leading geochemist Daniel Jarvie of Recon Africa. Whereas there's no doubt that the potential of the oil field is huge in terms of economic advantages for the company drilling and also for the area, where the creation of jobs will be a key factor. On top of the economic advantages for both Botswana and Namibia, there's also some negative factors that must be considered. One of the main methods of extracting oil is through the controversial method of fracking, which requires huge water resources to achieve. However, based in a desert area, this precious commodity is already something that's hard to come by. Whereas the project's been approved, authorities across Namibia and Botswana, with an environmental clearance certificate being granted, concerns are also being raised about the land, which is home to around 63,500 San people, a native group of Bushmen living in the area, and is also one of the main migratory routes for many of Africa's wildlife, including endangered species, from African elephants to the famous African painted dog. One prominent scientist from Cape Town in nearby South Africa has stated that the project being taken on by Recon Africa is nothing more than neo-colonial extraction of the worst sort, showing how yet again foreign entities are milking Africa of its natural resources.
This is bled dry by Western and Global North corporations, so why then is the practice still ongoing? However, there's a devastating side effect to the exploitation of African resources, and none more so than the oil industry, which in Africa sees multiple foreign companies drilling for oil and leaving the local population in a difficult position as a consequence.
We can't see no fish in this water because the water is stained with crude oil, and no living fish can be available to survive with this water. So the oil is in.
My hope is you are enjoying the show and you are getting as much as information that you need about this issue of fracking. Now let's continue our journey. Let's visit a neighboring country, Namibia. Remember this show, Africa News Flash, is being produced in Botswana. Now, let's visit our neighboring country, Namibia, and go to find out a bit more information about the fracking process, that is the fracking exploration that is going on currently in Namibia. Remember, the following clip, we got it from It's a Rap Show, which is hosted by Erica on YouTube. Make sure you go subscribe to her YouTube channel, press on the subscription notification bell, and you won't miss most of her insightful shows. Enjoy!
Eco-warrior and investigative journalist John Grobler recently returned from a trip to the Okavango Delta, where Canadian-based Reconnaissance Africa is said to have bought 35,000 square kilometers of the Okavango Basin and begun drilling for oil.
Well, it's been something that's been coming for a while. I mean, we first saw those presentations being circulated about 2 years ago, in 2018, maybe early 2019. Didn't pay much attention because, it seemed quite implausible what they were proposing to do there because of the environmental risks. And it all seemed sort of a pipe dream until October, November last year, when suddenly this whole thing started becoming a reality. I'd been working in the Cambongo East on the Rosewood investigation, and of course, I immediately started picking up that there was a site being prepared, more than one site, 3 of those, in fact. And I have now been back in December and last month, January as well, a week every time, just to go and have a closer look at what is going on. I also attended the public meetings that Risk-Based Solutions held 10 days ago in Rundu to brief the public on what they were doing, and now kind of formed a full picture of what is going on. What we have here is potentially a game changer, in economic terms. If they should find oil, let me say that right from the beginning. But at the same time, it is something that poses a huge potential threat to the entire Cambongo ecosystem. Where they are drilling at the moment on the western banks of the Umurambo-Umutako is only about 40 kilometers away from the Cambongo River, and the Umurambo-Umutako actually drains into the Cambongo River. So anything that gets spilled there or enters the groundwater there, in due course will work its way into the larger Cambongo ecosystem. And that has major implications for the entire region, because 10 liters of petrol will probably poison 1 million liters of water. It is an extremely poisonous substance that's only good for the inside of your car's engine and nothing else. So there's concern about the intent, especially the secret way they've been approaching this. The first briefings on their plans appear to have been confined to a select inside group of Cambongo politicians, businessmen and so forth, by invitation only. They claim this was their public meeting for the start of their actual stratigraphic drilling program. It is not adequate, I think. They now are presenting the EIA for just the seismic testing, and even there they're being quite economical with the truth. They maintain that this is non-intrusive work, which they do by basically having this huge machine that positions this aluminium dome on the ground and then whacks it, very hard with a hydraulic hammer that sends a 300 megahertz pulse into the earth, which is then detected, with little detectors all over to determine the profile of the substructures. Now, this has major implications for, first of all, the elephant population in the area, and secondly, if they do these things quite, too close to any of the local homesteads or boreholes, that could, result in damage to the houses and cause the boreholes to collapse. MIA maintains there are no elephants in this area, but that's patently untrue, because the Ministry of Environment, Forestry and Tourism has just issued a tender for the capture, cull and removal of 90 elephants in that very same area. So it looks like they're kind of clearing out the area on behalf of Recon Africa.
Another concerned citizen posted this video online.
For that, writing in newspaper media saying the drilling point is far from communities. They just come to the drilling point and they drive away, and they write that this is far from community. Communities are just next to the drilling point.
My guess is, at this point in time, you now have some information about fracking. You are now confident with the information. You understand what is fracking. And thanks to all the video clips that we shared, thanks to the producers of the video clips, like we already mentioned their names. You can follow them on YouTube if you want more information on different topics. Now, this last clip is a clip about a certain lady. It's a clip from Press TV as well. A certain lady talking about the repercussions of fracking, how they affect the Okavango Delta as a whole.
Media manager and the website editor, so we basically take care of websites, social media and everything.
And give us a little bit of background on yourself if you can.
Well, I was born and raised in Burundi, Bujumbura, and I was in Rwanda, Kigali for further studies, university.
Very well. Okay, let's bring up the first tweet that you chose for us.
Yeah, sure.
And explain this for us.
So On our first tweet by Suez Pargin, hope I got it right, the tweet denounces the consequences drilling will have on the Botswana's environment and most importantly the wild animals. Because if drilling occurs, then if drilling occurs in the Okavango Delta River, there will be no more grassy plains, which usually flood seasonally. And obviously, if there's no more of them, the lush animal habitat will simply disappear. And more again, on the other hand, we shouldn't forget about the indigenous San people living there, because more than anyone else, their lives will be affected by this project.
Sure, and it's something that we've seen happen time and again in Africa. Okay, let's move on to the next tweet that you've chosen for us, which it seems like is in French, so you have to obviously explain this to us.
Yes, so the next tweet, this tweet basically, it's about the British-Dutch multinational oil and gas company, Shell. So the company have been accused of being responsible of the oil spill on the Niger Delta. And here, the thing is that we're talking about facts. It's more about 5,334.
That's a lot of oil.
Yes, it's enormous. And the other thing is that this enormous number happened in a very short period, only from 1976 to 1997. So not only highlighting the devastating impact this had on the environment, but also what are the actual unmentioned facts from then to now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our show. Now, let me love you and leave you with these words. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. Our page is called Okavango News 24/7. Go like the page. Our YouTube channel is called Okavango News 24/7. Make sure you hit on the like button. You subscribe to our YouTube channel. Press on the notification bell so that you miss nothing else. And for the video clips that we shared, go to Press TV online. Make sure you subscribe to our video channel so that you don't miss anything. Go to the Rap channel hosted by Erica. I'm sending my love to Namibia. Go subscribe to their YouTube channel. You know what? Let's create a community where we share information, informative stuff. And from African News Flash, it's your boy Benny Makul. Let me love you and leave you in peace.